Hello everyone, I'm Krasia Tasio, and this is the week for the 12 Ascendants for the week from the 17th until the 13th of October. So I will make a brief overview on what to expect, what is the situation on the sky. You will find the timestamps for each ascendant under this video, and then I will talk ascendant per ascendant. So what is happening this week? Very interestingly, Rahu and Ketu, actually it is more about Ketu, the tail of the dragon, is in the nebula of Sagittarius. What is the nebula of Sagittarius? It's a very spiritual, very mystic, it's very esoteric place. So it is exactly about this deep, philosophical, spiritual knowledge, mysticism, magic. This is about the nebula in Sagittarius. And because of the nature of the sign of Sagittarius, it is about wide, beautiful philosophical values. Luckily also, Saturn is also 2 degrees away from Ketu. And with this, he is having less, how to say it, stormy influences on us. So people who have Sagittarius ascendant will certainly feel already a bit of relief, because the exact conjunction between Saturn and Ketu was not an easy one, especially during the last days of September. Also, interestingly, this week, we're having Venus visible from a big part of the world, in America, Australia, India. Venus is already visible as an evening star, so you can try to detect Venus on the sky. For Europe, especially the Northern Europe, Venus is not visible yet, but will become visible in 1 week. Another very nice and creative thing is that Venus is conjoined with Mercury in the sign of Sidereal Libra. Libra has powerful stars related to a presentation of skills, to a beauty, knowledge, creativity, design. So exactly this is what this conjunction would mean. Would mean for some people impetus, muse, desire to create, to present what they studied, to present their talents. So it's a very beautiful conjunction and will have a very good impact on the markets. Another thing is that Mars is still invisible. Mars will become visible in November, but Mars is still invisible in the sign of Virgo, and the Sun is also there. What is this invisibility of Mars meaning? I've been talking a lot, almost in every video that I've been making recently. But with this invisibility, he's kind of influencing indirectly Mercury, who is in Libra. These influences are due to the fact, of course, that Mercury is ruling in Libra, and while the invisible Mars is in Libra, certainly this is afflicting indirectly Mercury, which would say that we need to be a bit careful what we share. Our speech needs to be well diplomatic and under our own good thought and control. So this is another important thing. For the rest, we know that Saturn is direct away from Ketu. Jupiter is in Scorpio, and very soon in November will enter Sidereal Sagittarius, where Jupiter will meet Saturn, and this is amazing conjunction, and I will talk about this definitely in another video. So this is just my brief overview, and let's see what is happening, what is the stellar situation for each of the 12 zodiacal ascendants. So if you have Aries ascendant, then we know that your ascendant ruler is still invisible, with near the Sun in your 6th house in Virgo. This would say that for quite some time already, this invisibility would make you maybe a bit impatient, a bit too temperamental, too impulsive. This would say that you may need to be a bit thoughtful before sharing your thoughts, before getting involved into risky situations. This would also say that you may need to be diplomatic with your partners at work, with your subordinates, and be a little bit cautious with your health. In terms of your private life, interestingly and nicely, Venus and Mercury are on your 7th house to influence your relationships in general, but also your private life. And actually, this is very nice because this can influence your creativity, can bring very interesting communication with your romantic partner. So I see this as a very interesting and nice conjunction happening on your 7th house. Can also bring very nice new opportunities in relation to agreements and contracts, but all this would depend on your personal chart. In terms of knowledge, yes, now better than the week before. The period is very nice for studies, for really concentrating your effort on even on ancient studies, on deep learning, philosophical studies. All that is about Saturn, because Saturn is representing, the past, about exact sciences. So now when Saturn is away from Ketu, the limitation of Ketu is away and you can proceed with your studies and you will be rewarded. You may travel, you may negotiate, just be cautious not to get involved into risky situations and be diplomatic with your subordinates at work. Let's see now Taurus ascendant. For you, Venus and Mercury, your ascendant ruler Venus, is visible, and if you live in Europe will become visible, but if you live in America, in Australia, in India, Venus is already visible for you as an evening star. So Venus and Mercury are in your 6th house, which will support your relationship with subordinates, which can give you, create very nice creative environment, friendly environment, which can make your routine life very supported, very nice, very interesting. You need to be still a bit cautious and patient and diplomatic with your beloved ones, especially with your partners, with your romantic partner. You may travel, you may negotiate. The week looks very good for me, especially when it comes to relationship with subordinates and partners. When it comes to growth at work, this may be not the most fruitful period, but for the rest, your routine life, it will be very interesting, very creative, supported. If you're doing beauty procedures, if you're doing creative work, if you're doing exact science, if you're doing work of art, those activities will be beautifully supported. Studies as well. You may travel, you may negotiate. The week is fine for this. Now let's see ascendant Gemini. So Sagittarius, Gemini ascendant, excuse me. For you, luckily Saturn is now already 2 degrees away from Ketu, which is a relief. It will bring you a bit less stormy time. And on the other hand, Venus and Mercury are on your 5th house. And if you live in America, in Australia, in India, some parts of Europe, Venus is already visible. So Venus and Mercury together on your 5th house are aspecting Saturn on your 7th, and this is quite good. When Venus is watching, especially when visible, she's softening a lot the heart. Otherwise, Saturn influences, which you've been feeling for quite some time already. I know that Mars is squaring Saturn from your 4th house, but when Venus is watching, she's softening also those influences. So this is quite a relief for you, I'm sure, already. However, you still need to be diplomatic, patient, and loving at home, and be diplomatic and intuitive when it comes to your career and superiors. The week will be wonderful for you for, will be supporting your private romantic relationship, will be wonderful for creating beauty, will be good for beauty procedures, will be very good for artistic work, creative studies, communication and teaching children. Communication with children would say that if you have some unresolved issues in mind, it would be a wonderful time for sharing your knowledge with your children. The week is fine to travel, to negotiate, but be a bit always cautious, because I always repeat this, I know, but Saturn on your 7th house is still a bit of limitation. Therefore, remain intuitive, always, of course, but I mean, remain a bit more diplomatic, patient, and intuitive. And when traveling, when negotiating, when communicating, this is important to remember. And of course, take good care of your health. But in any case, the week is better and will get better. So this was about Gemini ascendant. Now let's see Cancer ascendant. With you, the interesting conjunction of Venus and Mercury is happening on your 4th house, supportive for your home, can be quite creative, supportive, also for your career in general, can create very nice, healthy, good environment at home. The week can be fine for beauty procedures. You still, even though Saturn is a bit away already from Ketu in your 6th house, you still need to remain alert, awake when it comes to communication with subordinates. In general, you need to be your routine life. Saturn is there. And now you may need to be a little bit diplomatic, intuitive in your routine everyday life with the people which surround you. Don't get involved into risky situations. For traveling, the week may not be the most appropriate, but it's still okay, since Venus and Mercury are together, and with and Jupiter is forming aspect to Mars. Still, there is this harmonious aspect between Saturn and Mars, and this is influencing your 3rd house. So I would be cautious this week when negotiating and traveling. Just be cautious, prepare everything very good, be very intuitive and really well prepared. And if you have this inner voice which would tell you that the time is not appropriate to travel or communicate or negotiate, really postpone. The week is great for creative studies, also for you for communication with children, because of the beautiful placement of Jupiter on your 5th house. So apart from the fact that you may need to be cautious when traveling, when negotiating, it is a better timing for your routine everyday life, and also for your communication with subordinates. Still stay alert a bit. And now let's see Leo ascendant. Your ascendant ruler is together with Mars on your 2nd house. This will, of course, emphasize on money, on the way you're making money. This is not bad. It can be, though, a bit surprising, a bit unpredictable due to the invisible phase of Mars on your 2nd house. It is so that your financial status this week, until at least Mars becomes visible, can remain a bit unpredictable. However, your money can come from communication, negotiations, travel. This is a very good possibility, especially if for your area Venus is visible. The timing is good to travel, to negotiate. It is fine to do creative work, beautiful procedures as well. The good thing is that Saturn on your 5th house is already 2 degrees away from Ketu, which is a bit less limiting and a bit less alert when it comes to children, because you remember for quite some time I'm repeating, be alert, be attentive towards children. I still confirm this, but the good news is that now Saturn is 2 degrees already away from Ketu, and this is a bit of easier aspect. However, Mars is watching, Mars and Saturn are forming aspect, therefore remain attentive without being afraid. Just be wise and attentive when it comes to children. Travel, communication, negotiations, this is fine, and most probably your incomes will come through that. In terms of health, yes, don't do risky stuff also this week, but Venus, Mercury together on your third house, creating harmonious aspect to the ascendant. Harmonious aspect to the descendant is also a kind of friendly and nice when it comes also to your romantic relationship, to your partnerships. So it's a good thing. But if you live in Europe and Venus is still not visible, after 16th of October, Venus will become visible, and this will be even better period for you, but this will be next week. Still, start already looking for Venus as an evening star, and this will be very nice and blessing. Now let's see ascendant Virgo. Now for you, Mars invisible and the Sun are on your ascendant, and your ascendant ruler is in your second house together with Venus. Mars and the Sun, Mars invisible and the Sun are on your ascendant. This is quite active, but in a way that is not predictable. It is good. The Sun will give you the beautiful energies, the solar energies, luck and beauty, but Mars is invisible, and as such, he can be unpredictable. He can make you a bit too temperamental. He can make you a bit too impulsive. This is good to take into consideration. And Mars invisible, it is also surprising. It's very difficult to predict Mars, because even in the ancient times they would call him the unpredictable planet. This is not bad though, because he can make you also very strategic. So this is how you can benefit from this, like plan your things well, plan your activities, plan your routine life, and this will be okay. With Venus and Mercury, your ascendant ruler with Venus on your second house, especially if you live in an area where Venus is already visible. Otherwise, if you live in Europe, Venus will be visible for you on the 16th of October. But still, Venus and Mercury together on your second house would give emphasis on making money through creative means or communication or travel. It's quite lucky in terms of finances. Just remain strategic and thoughtful, and be careful not to be too impulsive because of the invisible Mars on your ascendant. Also, don't get involved into risky situations. This will be valid for another like 20 days. Now, the week otherwise, when you are cautious enough and plan your activities, can be fine to negotiate, can be also fine to travel. Be a bit cautious career-wise with your superiors, and also at home, because any disharmony that can arise at home can have impact on your career. For the rest, financially, the week is okay. Just be cautious. As I said, at home, to be diplomatic and loving, not to allow any disharmonious situation and environment. Still, the good thing is that Saturn and Ketu are already apart. They are not in this tight conjunction that they had last week. So I see no danger, especially if you're planning very well your week, and if you're planning very well your routine activities. So this was for Virgo ascendant. So have a very creative week. It looks so to me. Okay. Now let's see Libra ascendant. Now for you, your ascendant ruler is on your ascendant together with Virgo, and this is really very nice. Venus and Mercury are together on your ascendant. This is really, really nice, because especially if you live in an area where Venus is already visible as an evening star, this is wonderful. If you live in Europe, especially in Northern Europe, Venus will be visible next week. But if you're living in America, Australia, India, Venus is already visible. So you are already blessed with the presence of Venus on your ascendant for 1 month. True blessing. Benefit the most from this with knowledge, with media work. Like if you have now, for example, media project, you may start it now. If you have a website to put on air, you can do it now. If you need to make important negotiations, wonderful period. So for people who have Libra rising, I think this is wonderful timing. It is really wonderful when it comes to presenting your knowledge, when it comes to launching something that is about Venus and Mercury stuff, which is knowledge, which is media. So this could be wonderful. Also, commercial project can market, commercial project can also take place. You may travel, you may negotiate. The week looks financially fine to me. Be a bit cautious with subordinates, with hidden enemies, and be responsible for your health. This is the only note that I have. However, you're having the wonderful blessing of Venus and Mercury on your ascendant. Still, it's a week of creativity. Very, very nice. But still, don't forget the invisible Mars on your 12th house can be a sign for hidden enemies, can also be a sign that you need to be a bit cautious for your health, which would say don't take risks, do healthy lifestyle. So this is about Libra ascendant. Enjoy the creative, blissful week. Let's see now Scorpio ascendant. Now for you, your ascendant ruler Mars is invisible with the Sun on your 11th house, and Jupiter is still, of course, for 1 year up until November on your ascendant. Mars invisible. We have this already for quite some time. Mars is still invisible until somewhere mid-November. When Mars is invisible, he can influence your emotions. He can be a bit unpredictable. The invisible Mars is unpredictable, a bit surprising, and also can make people a bit too impulsive. On the other hand, the invisible Mars is less sharp and is a bit more strategic. So benefit from the invisible ascendant ruler this way, like plan your strategies, plan your work, plan your business. Yes, Jupiter on the ascendant is a blessing. This week is not very appropriate for you to negotiate and also to travel. If you still need to, plan very well your activities and listen to your intuition. And if there is this inner voice which would stop you from traveling or from communicating, negotiating, or launching a project, it's better to really to postpone. The week is not appropriate for communication or launching a new project. The week is fine for hidden knowledges, for meditations like in a private place because of the planets which are situated on your 12th house. On the other hand, it can be a week good for resolving in a very delicate and diplomatic way issues which you may have with enemies, but still it is better to have Venus visible for that. So if you're living in Northern Europe, this may not be the most appropriate activity yet. So this is, the Sun is on your 11th house. This is fine. This will give energies. This will give this can be interesting for your gains and incomes, but still make a good strategy, make good planning for everything. And the week will be and don't get involved, of course, into risky situations, because the invisible Mars can make people a little bit impulsive. When you keep this in mind, when you know it, I'm sure that you will be able to plan your week very well in advance. So also the Saturn and Ketu in your second house already apart. They are separating, which is fine, because when they were together in this too tight conjunction of last week especially, I'm sure that this must have been a bit hard also financially. But now when they are separated with good organization, with good planning, I'm sure that your financial status and financial week will also be okay. Okay, this was for Scorpio rising. Now let's see Sagittarius ascendant. As Sagittarius, now Saturn, it's not a surprise. Saturn is on your ascendant. We know this already for quite some time. But the good thing is that Saturn is already 2 degrees away from Ketu, because you know Ketu is retrograde, Saturn is direct. Ketu is the head of the tail of the dragon, excuse me. They together can be a bit of a stormy combination, and I'm sure that you must have felt this already for quite some time. Now when they are separated, this is better, this is a relief. Still not a complete relief yet, because you have the invisible Mars on your 10th house, which would say that this week you need to be in particular diplomatic with your superiors at work, career-wise. In terms of gains, the week looks fine to me, because Venus and Mercury are on your 11th house. This is very fine. This is fine for creativity, for creative work, for communication and social life with friends. It is good for your plans, especially if you have plans, media plans. This is fine. You are, though, don't forget, limited with Saturn on the ascendant. And for you, new beginnings may not be very, very appropriate. But still, if you live in America, Australia, India, Asia, Venus is already visible. So this is truly wonderful blessing when it comes to communication with children, friends, when it comes to gains and money, trade. So this is very wonderful, very nice when it's happening on your 11th house. We still don't forget that you're a little bit limited with Saturn on the ascendant. But Saturn on the ascendant, I'm sure, made you already very responsible, very organized. So you are a bit immune already. You had for approximately 2 and almost half years Saturn on your ascendant, so you very well must have felt the limiting energies of Saturn. And if we are organized, if we accept what he is coming to teach us, the period can turn into blessing. And now, luckily, Venus, Mercury on your 11th house are aspecting your ascendant, softening the influences of Saturn and Ketu and Pluto. And I see this as a good week for you. Just be cautious and diplomatic with superiors, and be aware for possible hidden unpredictable stuff. So be intuitive and alert, but Venus and Mercury are very much on your side to save the situation. All right, now let's see Capricorn ascendant. Also for you, the limitation of Saturn in a close, tight conjunction with Ketu is over. This close and very tight conjunction was very tense and difficult, and you must have felt it last week, but Saturn is now already away from the conjunction with Ketu, and this is good. On your 10th house, you're having Venus and Mercury together in a conjunction on your 10th house. Venus is for biggest part of the world already visible as an evening star, and most probably you can, if you live in America, Asia, Australia, the Southern Hemisphere, you will be able to see Venus in the evening. Do this. This is wonderful. This can give opportunities for creativity, for communication, for negotiation at work with superiors, new plans, it's a true blessing. And this is aspecting your ascendant ruler Saturn, and is aspecting your ascendant as well. Now, the week may not be the most appropriate for travel or for negotiations abroad. You may have good plans and good opportunities at work, but really traveling abroad and negotiations abroad may not be very, very appropriate this week due to the fact that Mars is on your ninth house and is invisible. This can make him a bit unpredictable, impulsive, surprising. Therefore, concentrate your energy on creative work, on plans at work, on health, like have a healthy lifestyle and be responsible for your health still. For the rest, the week is creative and full with plans and opportunity. This is how I see it for Ascendant Capricorn. And now let's see Aquarius. Now for you, your ascendant ruler Saturn is already away from Ketu. This is very good. This is they were last week in a tight conjunction, and this was a bit tight, a bit stormy, unpredictable. But now Saturn is away, he can breathe from the close influences of Ketu, who is also very limiting. On your ninth house, you have the blessing of Venus and Mercury together. And if you live in America, India, Asia, Venus is already visible as an evening star, and Venus and Mercury together are aspecting your ascendant. This is very nice for studies, for creative studies and teaching, for beauty procedures. This is nice for your gains, for your incomes. This can be good for traveling and negotiations. So this is how I see the week for you. They also aspect your 11th house, which is fine, and which is fine for your gains, better for communication with children. I was often repeating that you need to be attentive with children. This is valid also this week, of course, but Venus and Mercury are watching towards Saturn and are softening the disharmonious aspect between Mars and Saturn. So I see this as a better aspect in relation to children, communication with children, and everything related to children. So this is certainly a better timing, but still be a bit cautious because you're still having Saturn on your 11th house, even though the timing is better than the week before. So enjoy the week with creative studies, with sharing your knowledge, with launching new studies, media work, traveling. The week looks very fine to me. Yes. So this was for Aquarius ascendant. Now let's see Pisces ascendant. Now for you, career-wise, the week looks a bit better for me, less tense, a bit easier communication and situation at work. The emphasis is a bit on communication and relationship with partner. There you may need to be a bit more diplomatic and careful. The situation with the finances for your partner looks good. You may be interested in secret studies, in esoteric studies. So in this sense, the week can be very good. The week also can be beneficial for unexpected incomes. They may come via your partner or via partnerships or in a way that can be unexpected. This, of course, depends on your natal chart. The week can be fine for travel and communication, but be cautious. Plan very well your activities. Can be very good for studies and sharing your knowledge. You're still having a little bit tension career-wise with superiors, but it is a bit less than the week before. So this is already a good news. So be responsible for your health because of the invisible Mars, who is making aspect towards the ascendant. So plan very well your activities. Also, if you desire to travel or negotiate, just plan everything very, very well. The week may not be the most appropriate for travel and negotiations, but it's still allowed due to the presence of Jupiter on your ninth house. Plan everything well, use your intuition, and the week will be good. And be especially attentive and patient and loving with your partner and diplomatic with other partnerships. So With this, I'm completing my analysis for the week of the 12 ascendants. Thank you for your attention, and your comments are very welcome.